My mom told people I was just lazy, not disabled. When I got a scholarship to leave, she tried to stop me, and then showed up on campus months later, sick and suddenly full of apologies. I was born breech, 6 weeks early, in the middle of a snowstorm. My mother, Evelyn, always made it sound like that fact alone was proof I came into her life like a curse. She used to joke, only half joking, that I came out backwards and never figured out how to straighten out. My name is Nadia, and I was born with spina bifida. The doctor said I'd never walk without braces, never be fully independent. My mother said they cursed me with a life sentence, but it felt more like she believed they cursed her. Growing up, everything I needed was a burden. My leg braces? Too expensive. My daily catheter routines? Disgusting. The custom seat built into the family shower? An eyesore. I remember once, I must have been 7, I asked her to help me get dressed for school because my fingers were stiff from the cold. She slammed my door so hard the glass panel cracked. Figure it out, Nadia, she snapped, her breath sharp with morning coffee and something bitterer. You're not going to have someone dressing you your whole life. That was her version of love. Toughness as a disguise for resentment. My father? Gone by the time I was 10. According to her, he couldn't handle having a defective daughter, but years later I found letters tucked behind the furnace in the basement. Letters where he begged her to let him see me. Said he'd take full custody. She never sent a reply. She needed me broken. Because if I was whole, if I was happy, her narrative fell apart. School was the only place that gave me scraps of normalcy. My IEP allowed me extra time on tests, and Ms. Larkin, my 5th grade teacher, used to read aloud with me after class while the janitor swept up crumbs from the lunch tables. I clung to those moments, those tiny offerings of patience and softness. At home, there were no such things. At home, weakness was sin. And needing help was treason. My younger brother, Ethan, was the golden child. Athletic, popular, neurotypical, everything I wasn't. She doted on him with manic joy, team snacks, private lessons, Instagram posts with hashtags like #ProudSportsMom. Meanwhile, she forgot to pack my lunches. Or pretended to. I started carrying granola bars in my backpack just in case. I learned not to ask for rides, even when my leg cramps left me hunched over in the bathroom crying. I learned how to drag myself up the stairs by gripping the railing with my elbows. I learned how to lie. When people asked, "Is your mom nice?" I smiled and said, "She's just stressed." When they asked why I never had friends over, I blamed accessibility. When they asked why I flinched when she called my name, I changed the subject. I told myself things would change when I got older. That I'd grow strong enough, smart enough, normal enough to make her proud. But when I turned 16 and got my first part-time job at the library, shelving books on my forearm crutches, greeting patrons with practiced cheer, she didn't even say congratulations. She just looked me up and down and said, "Let me guess. They gave you the job out of pity." I laughed. Because it was safer than crying. I was 17 when I realized my mother didn't just dislike caring for me, she resented my existence. It started subtly. She'd forget to refill my prescriptions. Claim she was too busy to drive me to doctor's appointments. Once, when I came down with a fever and couldn't keep food down for 2 days, she rolled her eyes and said, "You're always sick. Some of us don't get to rest every time our bodies act up." But what changed everything was what happened during senior year. My school was hosting a college night for students with disabilities, admissions officers from inclusive programs, disability rights groups, even scholarship reps. Ms. Larkin, now my academic advisor, practically begged me to go. "You're one of the smartest kids I've ever taught," she said, eyes warm behind her glasses. "You need to be somewhere that sees your brilliance before your wheelchair." I was excited. Nervous, but excited. I laid out my nicest blouse the night before, printed copies of my transcript and art portfolio, even styled my hair for the first time in weeks. But as I wheeled into the kitchen, my mother blocked the door. "Where do you think you're going dressed like that?" I hesitated. College night. Ms. Larkin said there's a school in Oregon that. She scoffed, actually scoffed. So you're going to leave me? Let me guess, you expect me to drive you to some fancy campus where you'll need full-time care? No. I'll apply for housing support. Oh please. Her voice was cold now, surgical. You can't even get through a day without someone wiping your messes. You think the world is going to cater to you like I have? I didn't ask for this, Mom, I said, barely above a whisper. No, you didn't, she snapped. But I got stuck with it. Something cracked inside me. I turned away, wheeled back to my room, and cried so hard I couldn't breathe. I missed the event. Ms. Larkin emailed me the next day, worried. I lied and said I had a stomach bug. For the next week, my mother was unusually cheerful. She made pancakes one morning, even brought home takeout for dinner, like she thought I'd learned my lesson. Like this was some sick reward system for staying small. Then Ethan got into UCLA. She threw a backyard party with lights and a taco truck. She posted a video of her crying into the camera saying, I always knew my boy was destined for greatness. She didn't mention me once. My acceptance to a smaller liberal arts college in Vermont came quietly, in a thin white envelope. I opened it in the bathroom with the door locked, hands trembling. Full ride. Disability support services included. My heart screamed with joy. But when I told her, she looked me in the eyes and said, And how are you planning to get to Vermont, Nadia? Magic? I said I'd figure it out. She laughed. I'm not driving you across the country. And I'm not paying for aides or buses or whatever fantasy you've built in your head. This is your mess. Don't drag me into it. That night, she told Ethan, loud enough for me to hear, I can't wait till it's just us. Imagine the peace. No whining. No burden. Just a normal house again. Ethan didn't reply. And that silence hurt worse than anything. I stopped speaking to my mother the day she called me her lifelong obligation. It was during an argument about the Vermont scholarship. She'd been on the phone with her friend Helen, loudly complaining about how she'd have to give up her entire life just to keep pushing this girl around for 4 more years. When she hung up, I asked, calmly, if she'd help me arrange transportation to the campus. Not drive me, just help me coordinate it. She didn't even look up from her coffee. Do you think you're my only priority? I have a life, Nadia. You've made it clear I've ruined it. She didn't argue. After that, the house felt different. Empty. Cold. I spent most of my time in my room, headphones on, sketching digital portraits on my iPad, the only thing that still made me feel capable. At school, I started fading. People noticed. Ms. Larkin pulled me aside. Did something happen at home? No, I lied, like always. But the truth was worse than anything I could say. I was slowly giving up. The Vermont school sent follow-up emails, then calls. They offered a travel stipend. Accessible dorm. Even a student mentor. I deleted the messages before she could see them. I told myself it was hopeless. That I'd never make it there anyway. That it was safer to stay small, to stay here, to disappear. And Ethan? He didn't say a word. He saw everything. Heard her sarcasm. Noticed the bruises on my arms from where she'd gripped me too tightly last month when I spilled a cup of tea. But he said nothing. Until one afternoon in May. I was trying to haul myself into the shower. My arms were sore, and I lost my grip. Crashed to the floor hard, cheek hitting the tile. I lay there for a minute, not even crying. Just staring at the drain, thinking, maybe she's right. Maybe I really am too much. The door creaked open. Ethan. Oh my God, Nads. He ran in, knelt beside me, lifted me like I weighed nothing. I waited for the usual, an eye roll, a sigh, a mutter about being dramatic. But instead, he whispered, I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. He helped me sit, wrapped a towel around me, and sat on the floor next to the tub. "She says things," he said, voice shaking. "About you. About Dad. About how she gave up everything. But she never says what you've given up." I looked at him, unable to speak. "She told me once," he continued, "that you were born to punish her. And I think I believed her, just because it was easier than standing up to her." We sat in silence for a long time. And in that silence, something shifted. I wasn't alone anymore. It wasn't a fairy tale moment. He didn't magically become my savior. But in that broken, humid bathroom, with a cracked tile floor and the smell of mildew in the air, I found something I'd never had before. An ally. A witness. And a spark of something dangerously close to hope. It started with a post-it note. A yellow square stuck to my bedroom door the next morning. Ethan's handwriting, shaky but determined. "I'll help you get to Vermont. Let's make a plan." I stared at it for a long time, fingers grazing the edge. I didn't know whether to cry or scream or laugh. But I stuck it on my laptop case like a promise. Over the next few weeks, we got to work. Ethan researched transport services. Found a program that offered door-to-door accessible travel for incoming students with disabilities. It wasn't cheap, but my scholarship included a relocation stipend. And the school offered a small emergency fund for circumstances exactly like mine. I printed out forms. Signed release waivers. Collected letters from my physical therapist and Ms. Larkin to confirm my needs. And for the first time in my life, I kept everything hidden from my mother. It felt surreal, operating in secret inside my own home. Like I was smuggling pieces of freedom one spreadsheet at a time. Ethan snuck envelopes to the mailbox. Helped me pack a single suitcase of essentials and stored it in the trunk of his car. I sold my old iPad for extra cash and used the money to buy a second-hand duffel bag and a new pair of crutches. There was just one thing left, telling her. But I didn't want a scene. I didn't want one more guilt trip or rage spiral or cruel insult disguised as maternal concern. I wanted out. So I left her a letter. It wasn't angry or bitter, just honest. "I'm going to college. The school has made it possible. Ethan's helping me get there. You don't need to worry about me anymore, Mom, something I know you've always wanted. I'm sorry for being a burden, but I refuse to stay small to make you more comfortable. Goodbye." I left it on the kitchen table, weighted down with the cracked mug that used to hold my formula when I was little. Ethan pulled the car into the driveway at 6:42 a.m. the next morning, still foggy and quiet. We didn't speak much, just loaded my bag into the backseat and drove. We were halfway out of town when I saw her name flash on my phone. I ignored it. Then again. Then again. 7 missed calls. A text. "Don't do this. You don't know what you're doing. You'll regret it." And finally. "You'll come crawling back, Nadia. People like you always do." I stared at the screen until the battery died. Then I dropped the phone in my lap and watched the trees blur past my window, Vermont drawing closer by the mile. The Vermont campus didn't feel real until I was wheeling down the stone path toward my dorm, late August sun burning my arms, the air thick with pine and possibility. I had made it. I spent that first week soaking in everything: orientation workshops, wheelchair-accessible tours, my very first grocery run without someone watching my every move. I shared a dorm suite with another disabled student, a quiet girl named Jasmine who used a motorized chair and wore noise-canceling headphones in the dining hall. We talked late one night about our mothers. Hers had died when she was young. I almost said I'm sorry, but stopped. I didn't envy her pain. But I envied her peace. By October, I had my first on-campus job, tutoring art history majors who struggled with essays. I'd push into the library with my laptop, my tea thermos, and a quiet pride that bloomed bigger every time someone thanked me. I didn't speak to my mother. Not once. She didn't know my dorm address. I changed my number. I blocked her email. But she found a way back in. It was the week before finals, and I was walking across the quad, yes, walking, slowly, with my braces and crutches, but upright, when I spotted her. Standing by the sculpture garden, arms folded, face as tight as I remembered. She looked older. Smaller. More tired than I'd ever seen her. Mom? Her head whipped around. Nadia. She stepped toward me, then stopped. Like she wasn't sure if I'd run or fall or both. How did you find me? I called the school, she said, a little too fast. Said it was urgent. They gave me your dorm building. My stomach tightened. That's not okay. I know, she said, softer now. I needed to see you. I didn't speak. She sighed. Looked down at the stone path. I'm sick. The words hung there, bitter and strange. Cancer, she continued. Stage 2. Not terminal, yet. But they want to start chemo immediately. I'm sorry, I said, because it felt like the right thing. But the sympathy felt like it belonged to someone else. She nodded. I didn't come to ask for help. I know you're angry. I deserve it. I stood still. But I wanted you to know, her voice cracked. You didn't ruin my life, Nadia. I let my own bitterness do that. And I took it out on you. A part of me wanted to scream. To throw every memory like a weapon. But I didn't. I was tired of holding fire in my chest. I needed to hear that, I said quietly. She stepped closer, unsure. Do you hate me? No, I said. But I don't need you anymore. Her face broke at that. She nodded. Looked down again. Fair. We stood like that for a moment. Two people on a campus path, wind catching in the evergreens. Her hands trembled. Mine did too. I hope your treatment goes well, I said. I really do. Then I turned and walked away. That spring, I held an exhibit on campus. A series of digital portraits titled Weightless. It featured students with disabilities depicted as celestial bodies, gravity-defying, luminous, infinite. People cried. I cried too, quietly, in the back of the gallery. Ethan sent flowers with a note that said, "Told you the world was waiting." I don't know what happened to my mother after that. We exchanged a few emails. Civil, sparse. Mostly health updates. She never asked me to come home. I never offered. But sometimes, when I'm wheeling through the studio late at night, my playlist humming low, I think of her voice, the younger version, singing to me when I was small. Before the bitterness. Before the cracks. I don't want to erase her. But I won't carry her either. Years later, I teach digital art at a community college in Vermont. I live in a tiny apartment with wide doorways and a window that looks out over the river. I don't talk much about my past. But sometimes a student will ask how I got here. And I'll smile and say, one crutch at a time,